the amazing Susie van der Vorst here. And so now you and Steve, you two crazy, wacky kids, you love birds. Now you got 3 babies. And then you guys set off to go start your own camp, which becomes a pretty big camp. That's 21 years. This is going to be your 21st year?
21st year, yeah.
Okay, so
we started our first year in 2003 with 3 campers. It was a duplex, a 6-bedroom duplex. And I still remember this one dad, which is pretty funny because I got an email from the mom last night. So I got this call from a dad saying, well, tell me about Camp Spring Creek. And I'm making it all up because we don't even own the property at this point. And I said something about rolling pastures. And I said, well, he said, tell me what it looks like. And I said, well, it's going to look a lot different by the time camp starts. But I can assure you your son will have a great experience. But it may not be, the Taj Mahal. We're starting off small. And now his son is grown and married, and he's a firefighter. Went on to the triad school, triad at Summit. But anyway, we started off with 3 campers and had a blast. And we went from 3 to 6 to 5 to 19 to 21 to 30. And then we had the year of 2009, I think it was, we only had 9 campers. It was horrible. It was right before the recession. And we thought that camp was going to end. But we pushed through, and now we serve 40 kids ages 7 to 15 every summer. And
so the kids come to you, kids who are struggling in school, but they also have a great time. I mean, there's paintball, there's...
We do paintball, we do archery, we do rock climbing, we do spelunking, we do water skiing. We have a lot of fun.
You show them our movies every now and then?
We always show your movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a fun place to go. So, but this is the really crazy thing you told me, that one kid increased 7 grade levels
He did. Now that's not a normal.
It's abnormal. But first of all, you get behind in grade levels. I'm a grade level behind. I'm 3 grade levels behind. But all of a sudden, if you can catch up over, now wait a minute, nobody's going to believe that. That's going to sound like crazy hocus pocus magic until you told me why that happens.
Well, the reason it happens is, one, they don't have to concentrate on any other subject matters. They're only concentrating on language and having fun. So Diana always has said that you have to have breaks in order to really absorb all that you're learning. And by having really fun things to do at camp, that's sort of a break, but it's also engaging your brain so that it can all be processed. So yes, we do have a lot of kids who make a lot of progress, but if they don't continue to use those tools, then they'll lose them. So it can be a quick gain and then a quick diminishing of those gains. But we also have kids who are slower processors who, like we had one mom last year, I said, I'm not sure that this is the best place for your son. He had a great time, but I'm not seeing the growth that he should have made. And I called her in October to see what she wanted to do about this year. And she said, he just got tested and his scores went up 1.5 years. So I think it just took him that much longer to process it and absorb everything that you had taught him. And he's using his tools. So every kid is different, but they really need to, once they can use their tools independently, then they really don't need to keep coming back to Camp Spring Creek. But some kids like to keep coming back. We had one little girl who came for 4 years and loved it so much that her screensaver on her phone is a picture of my husband and her. And she has a big Susie Free sticker on the back of her phone.
No, tell us about Susie Free. Susie Free.
I'll get there.
Are you taking background shots? Or are you taking pictures?
So now she's worked there. This is going to be her 4th year working as staff person. And this year she's being trained to become a tutor. So the Susie Free Zone, I'm a little bit like Diana, and I have high expectations for everybody. And so all of our counselors, they work really, really, really hard. And not only are they doing the fun stuff with the kids during the day, but they're the ones putting them to bed at night, getting them ready in the morning. So it's like a 24-hour job.
It's like Kildonan.
Right. And
Susie's a little like Diana. It's kind of like the nut doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right. So
maybe why Diana didn't like you. You ever think of that?
So they have an hour or two off during the day where they're supposed to be able to rest or relax or, have that brain break. And I would see them just laying around doing nothing. And I would be
on their break.
On their break.
Go figure.
And I'd give them a hard time. So they asked for a room where Susie wasn't allowed to go. And it was called the Susie Free Zone. And after we stopped doing all that and I stopped harassing them, the cook actually asked for the Susie Free Zone to be the kitchen. So we have stickers, and you can buy them in the camp store that say the Susie Free Zone. And kids get them because they hear that if I come to your house, you have to eat salad, and there's room inspection. So they get them and they put them on their walls or on their doors, so know that I can't come and check their room when I come and observe.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, what am I missing? Ask me a question.
So, what got you into? How did you find the IDA?
Oh, that was, well, that's the old story of like, just because I'm dyslexic, doesn't mean I know nothing about no dyslexia. I mean, I knew I was dyslexic, but nobody really knew what dyslexia really was. Everybody had all these things that's reading backwards, it's all that stuff. And so we found out there's a conference. Which was Philadelphia.
Why? Because you did like Loop Dreams and The Road Warrior. Like your documentaries weren't really about dyslexia. Like
no, I work with myself because one, I'm usually available when I need myself.
Uh-huh.
So that's like an important factor of just being able to be there when I need myself.
Mm-hmm.
So even as it is, in this last film, we wanted 3 kids to follow them around. We had to follow classrooms around and schools around. It just gets kind of crazy. So it's like, okay, let's find out what dyslexia is. That's the white whale, we're going to go find that and figure out what it was. So you go to a dyslexic conference, and then dyslexic conference, it's like you walk in and it's like I'm Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass, like there's all of these characters and, scientists and master educators and famous dyslexics, and so that's how I showed up and met everybody.
And Ken took to you right away?
Ken Pugh?
Yeah.
Well, I was stalking Ken because I live in Connecticut. He works in Connecticut. He works at a little school called Yale down there. So I would go down and I was like, I speak one language and I speak it poorly. What the heck is this guy talking about? It's like, that's the reason I got Gordon Sherman is, can you interpret what this guy is saying? I got another scientist, and Ken's right on, Ken's right on, but he starts going in a little bit more into, and how Ken and I became friends is I used to carry a plastic brain, like in the beginning, and so, which is multisensory. And, so I'm like, yeah, I'd see. So Ken was at like the second or third conference I was at, and it wasn't just going to IDA conferences. Like as soon as I found out there's brain conferences, I'm starting to go to those brain conferences, right? So Ken Pugh was waiting to get into a hotel room. His room wasn't ready yet, and I saw him, and I'm like, so no crew, just me, a bag, and a brain, and a camera, one camera, and so I come in, I'm like, oh, excuse me, Dr. Pugh, and he's like, oh yeah, and I'm like, can you just show me a little bit about the brain? And he's like, well, okay, this is cerebellum, and it's like, and people were like in the lobby, like, hey, that's Ken Pugh talking about a brain. I had this free show going on, and here's your frontal lobe, and then your frontal lobe, so it was great. I was just hanging out, and then Ken and I just became good, dear friends. I would call him up and ask him stuff. If I didn't know what it was, I would ask his people. And
how did you meet Diana?
Well, like we were talking about this, you and I were talking about this, of once you got into that first job, well, before Diana, I met, Sylvia Richardson and Roger Saunders, and Helen, and it's just, the old guard. So I went to Philadelphia with one camera, and I was just trying to make friends. And somebody said, the board said to I can't remember who the guy was who was running operations at the time, but they said, of course you have a camera crew to record all the pioneers. And he's like, where's that kid's number? You know, and he called me, and I got in with all of the experts. I got lucky because I had a camera, and I wasn't prepared, didn't have lights, didn't have microphones, but I recorded everybody and I started meeting people. So I met Carol Cowan, and I met Gordon Wallace. And then I'm wandering around meeting everybody, and they are my Sacagaweas. They're showing me who everybody is. And, you know, we see Diana King walking down the street. He goes, you got to meet her. This is, no, not now. And everybody's nervous of her, and she's really tiny and small. So, but again, she lived close to where I was. And one day, I think so I interviewed Diana a couple times, but why Diana and I became really close, it was after my divorce, and I said to Santos, I said, you think Diana will remediate me? And she goes, why not? You know, Santos, why not? Why don't you call her? Maybe she will. Sorry, Santos, when you're watching that, but you know, that's how she talks. You know, sometimes, go ahead, call her. She just wants to get rid of me. Santos just wants me to go someplace and just do something else, but then it usually brings the rest of the crew back involved. So I used to go, like on Thursday nights, you know, I would bring firewood to Diana's place, and we would remediate. She taught me how to read and write better, but yeah, I mean, I'm good at reading. My writing is atrocious. And so yeah, I worked with Diana, got really, really close.
Is that when you got close to her?
Yeah, that's when, you know, because I was seeing her once a week then.
Because she thought you were a nut job.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
She was like, stay away from him. He's a weirdo.
Yeah. Well, she gave us a lot of access to a lot of stuff.
And then she fell in love with you.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. She gave us tons of you know, of access. And you know, the whole story was, I was on Huffington Post Live in the green room and just ready to go onto the show, and I'm talking to Joey Pantalone, and him and I are sitting in the thing, we're like talking, and kind of like, okay, we're two dyslexic guys, probably both have ADHD. And Barbara Corcoran walks into the room, and she walks up and she goes, how did you get my interview? Because we had her interview, and we had all that, you know, because we were talking about her office, you know, and, you know, we had a signed release and everything. But she's like, how'd you get my interview? And I said, we ambushed you at Kildonan, you know? I was like, it's too late now. We're already, you know, winning awards, man. We're already on TV. So Diana told me, she says, Barbara Corcoran will be down at the new building. And Eric Gardner takes one camera, goes in one door. I go one door, we come walking down. We
ambush her.
We ambush her. We talk to her. We ask her a couple questions. We got one shot, two cameras, pull a release out, do it. And then after that, we're just like, as weeks would go by and months would go by, hey, do you have any pictures of you growing up? Do you have any pictures? And yeah, she cooperated and did everything with us, but she didn't know how we kind of did all the magic. But I mean, Diana and I, it's once we started remediating my handwriting, was when we started scheming and plotting and working together on all kinds of stuff. And that's why, and she would hatch these ideas that we should be filming this, we should be doing that, we should do this. And yeah, that's when we really bonded. And,
yeah, and she got to be bossy. She bossed you around a lot too.
One day, so I show up, I come in and I drop off a pile of firewood. You know, I gave her a check too for, you know, but I would come in and do a pile of firewood, and she'd open up the door. Oh, there you are. You know, I'm on the front porch of the old house, you know. I mean, those guys, I was like their freak show. I was like their, like, you know, I was their freak show. They would pull me in, like they'd have me show like parts of Dyslexia the movie or a chapter or something like that when I was working on it. And they were like, and the teachers, you know, could like meet like a dyslexic. You know, people like Arlene Sunday was over there one time, and they had these 20, 30-year-old teachers that were like new guys coming in, and they're like, oh, they're like asking me all kinds of questions. Anyway, I come to Diana's house for my regular writing thing. It's dark. It's firewood season. It's dark. It's, you know, 7 o'clock at night or 6 or 7 o'clock at night. It's, you know, after dinner time. And she says, come upstairs with me, darling. And we walk up that big...
Really?
Yeah, yeah. You're like, whatever. We're walking up the stairs. We walk up the stairs. It's like a scene out of the end of 2001 Space Odyssey. You know, the big hotel thing. Like, I go up in her room, and she goes up to the top of the stairs, and she opens the 2 doors into her bedroom, and there was like a 7-year-old or 9-year-old kid like at a desk. I am not making this up. It's like 7 o'clock at night. There's like a 7-year-old kid or like an 8-year-old kid at the desk. She opens the door. The kid turns around and looks at the door, and she said, and I'm looking at the kid. I'm like, this is weird. I thought it was weird when she asked me to go upstairs. Now there's a kid in her room waiting, and I'm sitting with her like for like an hour, you know, doing the thing. And she said she has this kid there, and she says, see him? He writes worse than you. Now get back to work. It's like, okay, thanks. Hey, see ya.
Did she take you up to the 3rd floor?
No, I didn't go to the 3rd floor. No, my security clearance never was the 3rd floor.
You never got to the
Never was the 3rd floor.
She would keep me up on the 3rd floor.
Oh yeah, no, I never made it there. No, she would send me away every all the time.
One of the last times I stayed at that house, I misused the word lie. And so I was given an assignment to go upstairs and learn when to use lie versus lay.
Oh.
And I had to come back in the morning and prove that I knew how to use lie and lay.
Well, this is a family show, so I'm not going to use the lie and the lay. And so, all right. What is your first memory in life?
My first memory in life?
Yeah, first memory.
My first memory in life is on St. Croix. With my dad, we built all these castles and runways for turtles to get into the ocean. And that's my first memory of seeing them all go into the ocean through all the castles that we had built.
Sea turtles hatching?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my first true memory.
That's nice. And now you're going back to, well, your daughter is teaching in St. Croix.
She is a private tutor in St. Croix, yep.
And you're going...
And I've done one training there so far, and I'm hoping to do another training for public school teachers.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think reading is a civil right, not just afforded to people who can afford places like Kildonan or Camp Spring Creek.
No, well,
Or Southport School.
Right. Okay, ask me another question.
So what's your fondest, or what memory of Diana gets you into a true belly laugh?
Oh, I mean,
there's so many.
There's so many.
What's the first one that jumps to mind?
When we interviewed William Van Cleve about Diana, and she walks into, he had a windowless room, and she walks in on a Monday morning, and she walks in, she goes, and William told the story, and I was laughing. I can't make any noise when I'm laughing. I mean, the camera can always be on him when he's telling the story, but if you're hearing like snort, you know, that's just not cool. So she comes in, she closes the door behind her, and she goes, William, dear, there's something I want to show you. And she started disrobing. And the way William tells the story, were you guys there? So the way she tells the story, and then she shows her tattoo, he was like, oh my God. And so she does it. I mean, that just makes me laugh all the time of just.
She loved those tattoos.
Yeah, she did. She did.
I just found a picture of that tattoo the other day.
I have a picture of both.
Yeah. And she also told Harvey she was going to haunt him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I know. If I didn't make the movie, I know. She does, but she's a friendly ghost. So we got that going on. Yeah, which is nice. Well, what you said about your brother, and I met Ann Vicker.
Mm-hmm.
Vickers. So, you know, I noticed that years ago when I started hanging out with these master educators and these neuroscientists. A lot of these master educators, they got into the business, the good ones that stayed around. You know, somebody just told me the other day, one of the educators didn't realize that in the first 5 years, majority of teachers just quit. Mm-hmm. But It's not the ninjas, not the Jedis, not the ones that make it through. And a lot of what I found in my, although I am not a scientist, I'm just a simple country filmmaker. There's going to be things like, and the ones with the staying power, the Hughes, the Ian Vickers, the Dianas. You know, she thinks her uncle who ran Dunnebeck, the farm Dunnebeck, was dyslexic. She has dyslexics in her family.
Right.
So which is a genetic component. So it's seeing the struggling, which is also why Decoding Dyslexia is a successful organization. And just follow me on this, that if you're a high school teacher, you're like, oh, this kid's no good. He's never been good. Such and such. But they didn't know the first day of school for this kid in kindergarten or first grade. You know, again, the prison warden, the prison guard's going to think, this kid's never been good. This is just bad apples, you know. The kid never tried a day in his life. It wasn't there in first grade. Wasn't there in kindergarten, watching that the person just processes differently, learns differently, and needs to be taught to how they learn. So who does? Family members. You know, moms, cradle to grave, you know. Sisters, aunts, cradle to grave. They've watched the kids go, and they've seen the struggles. And they can see all the different things. They can see the people trying, people getting left classes behind, grades behind. And they can see all of a sudden the frustration coming into acting out, and seeing all of these different, and you know, drinking, drug abuse, divorces, all kinds of things that go. So when I see Ian Vickers and I hear you or Diana, these are people who witnessed the fire. These are people who know why these kids have failed and why these kids are struggling. And as much as what you've said before about here's where the numbers are, there's more people, there's more schools, there's more stuff going on. But I think we're putting up a good fight. I mean, that's why we made Hopeville, is because we actually show the science of education in a town like Waterbury, 210,000 people with 60 languages. You know, you put a kindergarten teacher and a first grade teacher in there, and they're trying to teach them to teach language, and they haven't at the university level been properly taught. And you know what's going to happen.
Right.
So what's the future going to be like, Susie? What's the future going to be like?
Well, the future, there are lots of different ways that the future can go. But in a romantic world, all these films that are coming out, including Hopeville, and all the good teaching that's happening, is going to change the way that we educate. Because I really think that what we need to do is get this into colleges, because still, even every college that I know of, the Department of Education of the School of Education, there are always two schools, whole language or phonics. And I really think it needs to be about integrating both, because you need whole language, you need to know about rich experiences, and you need to have good vocabulary. You can do all the phonics in the world, but if the kids don't know what those words mean, then they're not, so what? They can decode them and encode them, but they don't have any meaning. So I think it has to be you have to have both. So we have to teach kids about the structure of language while also feeding them background knowledge, teaching them how to do metacognition. If they don't already, our dyslexics generally do metacognition quite well, which is thinking about thinking. They're the kids that are always asking, but why? Or coming up with the one word that doesn't fit the pattern, because they're bright and they're already thinking outside. And I always say, once you have that kid that's telling you, but what about this word? You've already hooked them. So keep feeding them. But too many teachers get discouraged because they just say he's a smartass. Well, yeah, he is. But you've got to be, willing to make mistakes yourself and learn with teachers. So I think that we need to get the science of reading into schools of education more so, and get people in the schools of education to work together, be more cumulative and collaborative in their instruction, because it's not one or the other. You need to have both.
Well, collaborative is a big thing, and there's there's 4 or 5 films at least right now. There's so many more organizations now than there was
Right.
when I met you at the IDA, but that was before Decoding Dyslexia. That was way before the Reading League. It was way before the 95% group. It was way before the everything. The science of reading.
I think we're on. It's about to explode.
It's about to explode. It's about to explode.
And wouldn't that be great if all kids learn how to read?
Well, that means there's going to be critical thinking. That means probably. I think crime would drop. I think that we wouldn't have as many illiterates in prison.
Right.
Maybe we'd have well-read masterminds in prison. I don't know. But I'm that's above my pay grade right now. But what I do know is having everybody read and teaching to how everybody can read I do believe it's about to explode. Donna from the Science of Reading was in the New York Times last week. The week before that, Science of Reading was the top 10 Twitter things. So we made a film that has, for the lifelong learner, for the parents, for the educators, but also for the decision makers, the policy makers. Do I want the president and the president of the United States and his people to see it? Sure. Do I want senators to see it? Yeah. Governors and congressmen, not a bad start. School superintendents, board of education, yeah. Teachers, yeah. People who are making decisions on things and informed. So this is our, I took a solemn oath to these guys and to my wife and daughter and everybody else. This is our last 90-minute film, guys. We're going straight. We're going legit after this. It's all YouTube. But you can slice things into 2-3 minute pieces of information, and you can get them to schools and decision makers and get the information out that way. And we put a call to action in our film, an advocacy toolkit, which you've helped us out with an awful lot. I'm getting into every state. When our film goes off and is flying around, films live a year and a half when they're really active, and then they're still kind of.
Have you ever seen Fat Rick Lavoie's movie?
Oh yeah, I love it. The haircuts
That's
and
from the '80s, and it's still
Fat City.
Fat City.
Rick Lavoie. Yeah, it's a brilliant film, and when you're watching it, it's a cult classic, and you're watching it, and it's a brilliant thing. I'm hoping if people evolve away a little bit. You kind of catch a lot of stuff in Fat City, like. You don't want to be those people.
Right.
You don't want to be the people who say the wrong thing to the kids and scar them for life. And I think we're getting further, away from this. So hopefully.
And then One by One is such a great movie because it shows you how.
It shows you how. Well, Diana, that was one of the things of scheming. When Diana wanted to do One by One, that was Diana's scheming on, I'll show them how to do it perfectly. And so, yeah, One by One is really, they say it's like the master class of with her just teaching a kid, and they're all going to be uniquely different. Well, that. This is what you're saying, and this is what I think the parents or the school systems might not get. And so I've also been hanging out at school superintendents conferences, and I'm beginning to notice the change and more superintendents. At the last conference I was at the fellows conference. There was a couple superintendents there. Well, why are you guys here? Well, we're here because we want to bring the science of reading into our schools. We're seeing the numbers increase, so that's important. So, I believe I'm hopefully optimistic, and I think collaboration of all these different groups, all these different films, everybody is going to approach the problem a different way, and together we can, and we can make a difference.
We can make a difference.
All right. On that, anything else that you want to ask? Anything we missed? Or I'll probably see you again when we're coming down your way. We'll probably do a podcast with you again. Good.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you
for your time. And remember, in Harvey Hubbell's show and tell, everybody in the room has something to teach us. Peace out. Much love and respect.